In the New York Times, we have a story about why President Obama might have blown the debate. There's a wonderful set of excuses here. Let's start first with their strategy on not bringing up the 47% issue during the debate. While Mr. Axelrod said that Mr. Obama simply never found an opportunity, another aide offered another suggestion. To have done so would have given Mr. Romney an opening to undo the political damage of the remarks with a certain planned answer before a huge television audience of 67.2 million people. Now, this, I think, is the most plausible.
Yeah, I like that. I could see. I don't agree with that, because I think if you challenge him, you keep challenging him on it, and you don't give him free rein to answer it how he wants to. And he could have taken the opportunity either. But I could see that argument winning the day in an argument among people who are paying attention.
I think so, and it's not necessarily even the wrong argument.
Right,
okay?
I agree. Yeah.
So now, here's where it starts to get a little dicier. Hours before the debate, advisors said they were worried that during his preparation sessions in a financially distressed resort in Nevada, he was frequently interrupted by his presidential duties, and they indicated that they were nervous that he was underprepared. So that's such great Washington right there. Why? Remember, this is Obama people leaking to the New York Times. They're going to spin it in a way that is favorable to President Obama, but they do it with, he seemed unprepared, so it seems like, hey, that's news, we just gave you a scoop. You're going to run with that. Of course, if you're New York Times or any reporter, you're going to be like, wow, I got aides to Obama saying he's underprepared. But it is framed within the context of so many national security issues coming up, and so he kept being pulled away to his presidential duties. And my favorite is at a financially distressed resort in Nevada. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Yeah, he's under tough conditions. He's in a rundown place in Nevada. He's trying, and then he's got all these national security issues, and that's why he was underprepared.
I'm going to disagree with you fully. That is because that spin is terrible. Mm-hmm. Because Americans don't want to hear that the president is too busy to do his job. Mm-hmm. He's the president. He should be prepared all the time, whether he runs a session or not. And that makes him seem like a whiny little child. So I do think that's a leak. It's a leak of maybe somebody thinking they're helping, but that does not help. We don't want to hear that the president, hey man, you got called away to be president, you can come back and debate. You're Barack Obama. You know this shit. To me, I hate that. I wouldn't let that out in a billion years.
Yeah, but I think they might have miscalculated.
Maybe.
So I agree with you that it doesn't sound good, because look at the next one. Continuing the New York Times. In general, advisors suggest that Mr. Obama had prepared for a different Mitt Romney, one who had promoted a conservative message to the Republican base this year and chose a running mate with a plan to cut deeply into government spending. Okay, how does that help you? Like, oh, golly gee, this debating thing is really hard. I had prepared for one thing and he gave me something else.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but
that's terrible.
But that to me sounds, again, it's just about what rings true. I think they were. I think he was throwing off his game and he didn't know how to respond. And then what seemed to me to be probably a very clear decision, if I don't know how to respond, I'll Barack Obama this, and I'll be the professor, and I'll be calm. Here's what I'm not going to do. He's a smart guy. I'm not going to make a mistake. I'll lose this game.
Prevent the mistakes.
I'll lose this game, but I'm not going to blow out my knee.
Yeah, and continuing. Some of the weakness in the president's performance, advisors said, were the result of a strategy of not turning off the narrow slice of swing voters who are often repelled by personal confrontations. That, again, sounds true to me, because that's what they're very worried about in the Obama camp. And so they're like, okay, don't do any confrontation, because independents don't like that. But when you put all this stuff together, well, what winds up happening, of course, is a very weak debate performance, which turns out people even more. Finally, they talk about the Social Security line that President Obama said about how they largely agree with each other on Social Security, which is crazy talk, because
they don't.
In Mitt Romney's book, Mitt Romney says, hey, you know what? I would like to privatize Social Security. I would like to start the process and give people an option of doing private Social Security. Ryan's plan, Ryan was the architect of Bush's 2005 plan, the disaster to privatize Social Security entirely. It was Ryan who pushed Rove and Bush into it, Ryan and one other House Republican that were the leaders of that movement. So these guys...
What was Ryan, 19 then?
I know, isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
He's really young, but he worked the conservative media, et cetera, got in a position, and he's one of the few guys who actually proposed plans. Everybody else is sitting on their hands just collecting donor money, so that's why he got into this position. Anyway, So why did you agree to that? Well, it turns out the Romney reaction was great because they said, quote, a statement that sent up a cheer at Mr. Romney's campaign headquarters in Boston and bewildered Mr. Obama's advisors. So they were literally cheering at Romney headquarters when they're like, oh my God, he let us off the hook on Social Security. I can't believe he let us off the hook on Social Security.
That's so related to the previous statement about the results of the strategy and not turning off the narrow slice of swing voters who are often repelled by personal confrontations. That tells me that if much of these leaks are to be believed, that Obama was thrown off his game, bewildered, and thought, I'm going to play this cool, and I'm not going to do any confrontation at all, and where I see an opportunity to agree, I just do it. And so he just started saying things that we agree with because he thinks that independent voters like that.
And yesterday we showed you nearly 10 clips where President Obama starts a sentence with, I agree with Romney, I agree with Republicans, right? Because he's trying to avoid confrontation, but it's a bad idea. In fact, it's worse than you realize because
here's when it's not a bad idea. If the first part is true, if he found himself unprepared and not feeling confident enough to react to the Romney that they saw out there, then it may not have been the worst strategy. Then you really do be like, you know what, we've lost this game. It's, you're playing an NBA game and you're like, hey, you're down 26 points and we got and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce were tired. You know what? We're not going to do the NBA comeback this game. Mm-hmm. We're going to fold the tent on this one and we're going to lose 119-79. And you know what? We're going to come back. We'll play again tomorrow.
Yeah, I still hate the strategy because it's NBA season's 82 games. And in fact, later, David Axelrod said something almost exactly what you're saying. He said, this is like the playoffs. You just figure it out and you come back the next game. Unless, of course, it's football. And if you've lost the first game in the playoffs in football, you've lost and you go home. Okay, now, it's not like football, but it's a curious analogy. So now, finally, Mr. Romney's aides said that they believe that the issue of Social Security, which Mr. Romney's running mate, Representative Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, has called for overhauling to include private investment accounts, had been taken off the table for Democratic candidates in the final month of the debate and could not be effectively used as a weapon against Republicans. That's why that strategy is much more important than just the first debate and just the presidential race. The leader of the Democratic Party just took an incredibly important issue off the table for the entire Democratic Party and all their candidates in the Senate. That's horribly played. And by the way, why did he do it? Let's keep it real. He did it. One person was a Social Security advocate, said, I don't understand. What is he doing? Either he doesn't understand Romney's plan, which would terribly hurt Social Security, or he agrees with Romney's plan. Bingo. The reality is, just as he said in the debate, he wasn't kidding. He wants to tweak Social Security. He's proposed it before. How much clearer does he have to be? He said on the record.
But a tweak is not, Romney's plan and a tweak are not the same thing. You can disagree with Obama.
Now, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. So they don't have the same plan. Romney's is much more radical. But will President Obama cut Social Security? It's a near guarantee. He said that he's offered to cut it before negotiations. He just said in the debate that he's going to tweak it. That's political talk for I will cut it. Now the question is, how much will I cut it? But I will definitely cut it. So the bottom line is, to some degree, he does agree with Mitt Romney, and that might have been the worst part of the debate.